to the quantum mechanics.
Yes, we're the Quantum Mechanics. We're the paranormal podcast for the believers, the doubters, and everyone in between. And you might notice we're sounding a little bit different because we are back in the Cross Keys pub in Tame, recording in our favourite pub for today. We're going to be hopefully hooking up with James from the Lawmen later because we're going to do something for their podcast for Christmas, although the one you're listening to right now will be going out after Christmas, so it's all very confusing. But if you did miss us on the Lawmen doing our Christmas thing, go check it out.
Yeah, we're doing the Christmas Pigs.
Christmas Pigs.
The Christmas Pigs. So yes, we are. That's what we do sound a little bit different. And if there's any noise coming from behind me, that is my dog who has taken what we had for supper, or at least the boxes of what we had for supper, and was chewing them up. But he seems to be sitting down now.
Yeah, we had a couple of nice pizzas, didn't we?
We did have a couple of nice pizzas, yes.
I must say we have a new Patreon as well.
Yes.
Welcome to Karen, who joined us as a Patreon. Really glad to have you on board. As everyone probably knows by now, because we say it so much, early access to the episodes, ad-free, exclusive content like the Extra Scoop, little bits of news, and lots of lovely little chat on there. So come and join us. Cheaper than a coffee, as we like to say.
It is cheaper than a coffee.
Yeah.
And it is, of course, the new year. So as we speak, it's a bit weird, because as we speak about this, it's the wrong side of Christmas and New Year. When you listen to this, it'll be the wrong side of Christmas and just getting into the New Year.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
I would sound roughly the same, but I would have cheese emanating from every orifice, which is how I normally spend.
And we'd be a few pounds heavier.
Yes, although I've just eaten, as you said, the most enormous pizza.
Yeah, that's the warm-up.
But look, before we get into the New Year's stuff, there is something. We don't really do breaking news stories. We've said we do stories, really.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, I can't really ignore the drones thing that's happening at the moment.
The Jersey drones.
The Jersey drones, the British drones. It feels to me like a flap. This feels like a traditional flap.
Yeah, it's got all the hallmarks of a flap.
And I'm pretty sure you guys have all been following this. What we've had in the UK has been nothing compared to the coverage you've had in the US.
Yeah.
But we do live in a part of the world where there are lots of UK-based US air bases. And this is the sort of news that makes us worried.
There have been at least 5 nights, possibly 6 nights, of unexplained incursions by what the Air Force describes as drones over 3 of the most sensitive US bases, or British bases where the US Air Force is based, in the United Kingdom. That's Mildenhall, Lakenheath and Feltwell. And what distinguishes all of those bases is that it's very likely all of them have nuclear weapons. So this is a very grave situation. Unexplained incursions by unexplained drones, multiple drones, dozens in some cases, and there has not been any attempt, as far as I can see, to successfully bring down one of these objects so that we can be told what they are and where they come from.
Yeah, because it's funny how this story has developed, because, it was very New Jersey-based, and then everybody started hearing about it, and now some being reported in the UK as well. Really interesting.
Yeah, and I wanted to find, because we what we don't do is do the same news stories as everyone else, because invariably somebody's got better contacts and somebody knows somebody. Like, if you want to keep abreast of this, probably the Mike Hank show is the way to go. Yeah. But the different way of looking at it would be through the eyes of the quantum mechanics, paranormal incidents in the past involving flaps, airships, rockets, and Daz Smith remote viewing. But before we get there, let's just see what people have been saying about this, because I've been really worried about it. But people at the Pentagon seem to say there's no problem at all.
Is it possible that some of those drones could be up to malign activity? It's entirely possible, but the vast majority, that is not, the case.
It's funny that the Pentagon thing is, because I saw a clip of Joe Biden talking about it, and he was asked about it, and he was a bit like, we're investigating. I don't think there's anything to worry about. Something along those lines. It wasn't very convincing.
No, and just a couple of days ago, Trump said, they know what it is.
And then he wouldn't say if he'd been briefed.
No, which is... Do you think he said that to sound mysterious?
I don't know. It worked. He did sound mysterious. My favourite one, though, was I saw a a clip of a drone expert on CNN, and he runs this centre, which is a kind of, I think it's like a university or a college that's all about drones in New Jersey. And as somebody who was reviewing the clip came back and said, has anybody made the connection that there is like this centre for drone excellence in New Jersey, and all these things are going on? But they asked him if he thought that these were the work of foreign agents like the Chinese government or whatever. And he said, well, I think we'd know if it was the Chinese government. And the CNN report said something like, how would we know? And he said, if it was Chinese government, they'd probably turn the lights off.
Oh, man. You see, that is what fuels the conspiracy theories, fuels people's concerns. I mean, I don't freak out about a lot, but as those air bases that they were reporting in the UK, you know, if I drive 10 miles, I can see them.
Yeah.
I don't really want a foreign adversary messing around with us. The biggest conspiracy, well, I'm not going to say conspiracy theory, the biggest theory that got everyone concerned this week was that it was looking for radioactive material,
Yes.
and or a missing warhead from Ukraine. That appears to have been, I mean, it's safe to say it'd be shut down even if it was true, but have a listen to this.
And in New Jersey tonight, energy agencies knocking down an alarming theory, saying it's just not true. News reports linking drone sightings to a small amount of medical-grade radioactive material that was temporarily lost in transit. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection issuing a statement to ABC News saying the source has been located, repackaged, and sent to the manufacturer. And the National Nuclear Security Administration saying it does not employ drones for nuclear radiological detection missions.
So it sounds like there was some truth in that story, Ben, but it kind of got blown way out of proportion.
Yes, I mean,
storm in a teacup, as we say.
Some radioactive material as opposed to a warhead.
Somebody dropped a glow light.
Yeah, and other people that I've read and listened to, commentators were saying, in fact, I think there was someone on the Joe Rogan show who knows what he's talking about, saying you wouldn't send drones up to look for radioactive material in a warhead because they're pretty well sheltered from exposing gamma radiation in a warhead.
Right.
And this idea that there were warheads in Ukraine going missing, it's just everything's feeling very, very James Bond.
Yeah.
And the reason that it feels very James Bond is because more and more people are sort of, it's really like a 90s disaster movie when politicians are saying, we don't know what's going on. The one that really caught my eye this week, and I was, because it's American, we don't have this clip on British television, but Congressman Brian Bergen, listen to how pissed off he is.
I walked out because it was worthless. It was the biggest amateur hour presentation I've ever seen about anything, okay? It was ridiculous. There were no answers. Every question that was asked by a member of the state legislature, great questions, no answers, no resolution. They don't know where the drones are coming from. They don't know who's doing it. They don't know why they're doing it, but they say there's no credible threat. The biggest waste of 5 hours in my entire life.
So why do you think they called this meeting?
No idea. Why would you call a meeting to tell people you don't know anything? I have no idea. And then when the legislators would ask questions, there were no answers. Here's the most frustrating part. The colonel of the state police said that he had a helicopter of his flying above one of these drones, a 6-foot drone or something, I can't remember exactly what he said, and he felt unsafe for his helicopter, so he just let it go. Just let it go. Where'd it go? Who knows? You know, didn't want to follow it because he didn't feel safe. Is that not the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard?
And they're saying no threat to Americans.
They're saying no threat, but how the hell do they know? They don't know anything. They don't know what it is. They don't know where it come from. They don't know nothing. When I walked in here today, I was actually pretty calm. I was excited to be here to find out a couple things. I thought they'd be like, hey, listen, it's FedEx, trying to figure it out. But instead, I got the most ridiculous amateur hour briefing I've ever sat through.
So I guess it's those kind of interviews, that kind of feedback that just also throws a bit more petrol on the fire on these things as well, doesn't it? Because you're going there. If somebody like him can't get any answers, why is that so difficult? You know what I mean? So I mean, for me, there seems to be, it's aliens. That's one. It seems to be, it's a foreign power, but yeah, okay. Why New Jersey? I don't know. Probably the one that has a lot of weight and probably would tip me was, no, it's the Americans trying out drone technology. And then people go, well, why would they make it so public? Well, it depends who you want to know that you've got this stuff. You know what I mean? It could be a bit of, willy waving as we say, hey, look what we've got. Or alternatively, it's like a few people with some very expensive big drones, because you can get them. I saw them on CNN, these huge things, and they're used for crop dusting and all kinds of stuff. And that's created a wave where everybody who's got a drone has gone, I'm going to put mine up in New Jersey. Do you know what I mean? So perfect flap in that way. But it's got all the hallmarks of something we talk about on the podcast a lot. And I'm not saying I know which of those is the right one, but it's got all the hallmarks of mass hysteria, hasn't it?
So interesting you should say that. Listen to what Michio Kaku has to say about this.
Well, in my opinion, this whole crisis took place actually in September of last year. At that point, the government made a historic decision to make it legal for people who own a drone to fly them at night. Before, there were restrictions on the use of flying drones, but after that September decision by the government, everybody began to say, I have a drone. This is going to create a stampede. I can impress my friends. I can shoot drones out there. And that's what happened. And then the government made it worse by saying, A, that these things are harmless, but B, they don't know where they come from or what they are. How do you know that something is harmless unless you know what it is and where it came from? So I think this crisis is self-inflicted. It's basically the government shooting itself in the foot, realizing, oh my God, we opened the gates. A whole stampede of amateurs are now flying these drones out there at night. And the government doesn't want to admit that they are in the process actually at fault in terms of creating this confusion.
Yeah, it's an interesting point of view. But I guess it comes back to that point of, why won't the Americans just say that? Yeah, it's hobby drone. Unless you're kind of like, that opens up a debate of, like Trump was saying, just shoot them down and all that kind of stuff. You don't want people shooting at the skies, do you?
But I'm pretty sure, well, no, it's illegal, of course. I'm pretty sure if I went to the airbase like RAF Fairford,
yeah,
where my friends used to live near there. There's a playing field there. There are some days when you sort of check yourself whether you're allowed to fly a kite there, because during the Gulf War there were those stealth bombers were coming overhead, and you were like, I don't want to bring one of those down with a child's toy. Genuinely you would feel that way, and it's so militarized. Obviously, it's a military installation. If I was to stand outside it or in a next field with a radio-controlled aircraft and start flying it around, I'm pretty sure that I would be wrestled to the ground. Wouldn't take much wrestling, to be honest. I don't feel that I would get away with it. What's happening here is night after night, these things appear to disappear to nowhere, seemingly, even though Trump says, and I love those words, we can see into the garage. Yeah. I don't know what that means. If that is true, and nobody is saying that they know where these things are from, but I would have thought that would be true. But people keep saying these things are disappearing out to sea. Like we've had a police officer in the last week in New Jersey counting 50 in off the ocean.
Yeah.
I reckon there'll be some more quotes, but I don't think this will be solved by the time this goes out. But what you sent me in the week, Daz Smith's, well, he did a drawing. So in November, I think it was November the 20th, he was asked what would be the big news story in the world, basically, in December. He talks us through it in this little video. There's about 15 seconds here. But basically, he did a drawing where it's like objects flying around. And listen to what he says about, I was going to say the Soviet Union, Russia and America and some sort of dogfight. That's what he says.
So to put it into context, for those who don't know, Daz Smith is somebody we talk about a lot. I guess, one of the world's leading remote viewers. So remote viewing, they're looking at a blind target and trying to psychically connect with it and see what comes out in a drawing. And this was his prediction, right?
That's right. Have a listen to this.
I'm seeing a graphic showing an overhead or satellite view of two different opposing movement patterns or two arcs of movement in the air. And this is like coming from different directions. And it almost looks like they're doing like a close miss or something. But, these two aerial objects that are moving around each other, dogfighting kind of in a way, but not actually fighting. Try to draw it here again, with the 3 points of interest here. So it's a wide open code, airy, vast cloudy skies. That's the space here. Object 2 here is fast, mechanical, sleek, grey code, man-made, and it's a vehicle. And there's another one here, 3, that's slightly faster, darker, sleeker, slender, cylindrical. And it's a man-made object of some kind. This feels like an evasion or dogfight feel to this. There's sirens, warning, lights and sounds below, lots of speed, and maybe even some countermeasures taking place. So object 2 here is grey, black, white, pointed at the front, and a Russian feel to it. Object 3 here is dark grey, black, sleeker and newer, had a USA feel to it. This all felt very formidable. So it's almost like, there's this kind of like Cold War type thing being played out, situation in the skies. As I said, I think that's what's happening over the US bases right now. So technically not into next month, but ahead of when I did this. So it feels like a military event, an aerial situation, skywards, two opposing man-made, one feels definite plane, the other feels less so. It feels like an evasion conflict, like near misses going on. I feel of like a close stance, maybe a hit or something.
He mentions 3 very pertinent things. He talks about evasion, 2 objects. It looks like one is trying to evade the other.
Yeah.
And he's almost describing dogfights.
Yeah.
And he says one feels American and one feels Russian. And he describes as well this sort of sleek, grey nature to them, which is something that has been coming through in some of the imagery that's been described by people who've been, on the scene and witnessing it. Now, I haven't seen a lot about this sort of dogfighting thing.
Yeah.
Until, funnily enough, yesterday.
Okay.
And then I found this video. Have a listen to this.
All right, we're back less than 24 hours later with another drone interaction with an orb. This is over New Jersey. All I know about it is that this was a repost from somebody who was in a Facebook group, and that person had filmed this interaction. You can see there's another orb circling the larger orb, and it kind of flies away from it. I just posted one earlier today from Phoenix, Arizona, and then it's going to cut to that's very clearly one of our drones or something man-made. I can't tell if it flies in front of it, but it passes down and then it shoots off.
So that does sound almost identical to what Daz Smith predicted, did it not?
Yeah, it's exactly identical. So what I'm watching on that video is 2 objects that appear to be, as he said, looks like they're trying to evade each other. One is taking down the other.
Yeah.
Are we having some sort of proxy war with drones over NATO territories? Because this is not restricted just to the UK and America. We've had it in other countries. Now, people are saying they're seeing this in China and Russia as well. I don't know about that. I'm talking about things that we're seeing over Allied airspace. And this feels... It's very uncomfortable when you look at it that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm also conscious of the timing of all this as well. You've got, almost the lame duck ends of the Biden administration. You've got Trump coming in, and there's like big change coming. It's interesting timing. I don't know why it would be interesting timing now, but it does. That feels pertinent to this in a way, maybe.
I think you're right. I mean, there was a good interview with Nick Pope on Casper Site's channel where Nick was saying, if you want to mess around with America, the time to do it is in between presidents, because you're in between administrations. Nobody's quite sure,
Right.
If I start something, will I be able to finish it? Joe Biden's probably given up by now.
Yeah.
And it's one of those situations where if there is no answer, neither side can, neither Trump nor Biden can really do anything about it if there isn't anything to say. But it sounds so suspiciously like other things that we have heard.
Yeah. Can I just make one more point from a more sceptical point of view? Well, there's 2 points I wanted to make. I mean, I think many of us will have seen, almost for like New Year's and things like that, firework displays being replaced by drone displays. And quite incredible what can be achieved.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying we can't underestimate the weirdness that can be created with a few high-quality, high-end drones. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying that's worth considering. The other thing that crossed my mind about this story, and again, it seems like too big a scale to be this, but it reminded me of... Have you ever seen any of those audit videos on YouTube?
No.
So these are people who go... So there's one guy on YouTube who goes around just going to, like, not sensitive places, but kind of backstreet builders and car merchants and stuff like that. And he just starts taking photos. And basically, it's to make the content. You get the owner coming out going, you can't photograph here. And he goes, well, no, legally, I'm allowed to photograph here. He gets a row out of it. He puts the video up. People watch the videos because it's, the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if it's the one I'm thinking of, but there are a few who do it with drones as well. So they'll go to places like, I don't know, like the BMW plant or the Mini plant near us in Oxford. And they'll just stand on the public bit and get their drone out. And they even go up to the reception desk and say, just to let you know, so you don't freak out, I'm going to be flying a drone over your plant. And obviously the security guy doesn't know what the law is or whatever and starts freaking out. And he's like, no, I've got a right to fly over. There's nothing to stop me. And I'm not saying this is what...
Do they have the right to fly over there?
In certain places, there are, I'm sure, military bases near airports, stuff like that, they can't. But I've been surprised at watching a number of those videos that... I don't know if it was at the Mini plant or a BMW plant or something like that. In the end, the people had to say, the police said, there's no law against you flying a drone over the top of our building. Now, these are all during the day and stuff like that, but, yeah.
In the States, it's law that any drone over, I think it's £5,
right,
has to carry an ID chip of who the owner is.
Yeah.
And these drones don't carry that identification.
And maybe I've not seen this part of the story. None of these have been reported to have crashed or been recovered, or have they? Which is odd in a way.
Well, they have, but so you will find pictures and videos online of supposed crashed drones,
right,
surrounded in some cases by security services. We never hear anything more of it.
Right.
And there was one where the FBI said, oh, no, it looked like that, but it wasn't. It hit a power line, and then the FBI went screaming down there to look for it, nothing there.
Right.
And that reminded me, that particular incident, and we've spoken about the Scandinavian ghost rockets. That was end of the Second World War, May to December 1946. And they're seen in Sweden and Scandinavian countries. 2,000 reports, but I'm glad you brought up the crashed one, because the crashes were not uncommon, always in lakes. I've made loads of notes just to respond to what you were saying, so I'm just going through it in real time. But these reports of objects crashing into the lake, then propelling themselves across the surface before sinking, as well as ordinary crashes. Swedish military performed several dives in the affected lakes and found nothing. And there's a well-known one, July 1946, in Sweden. Witness reports a grey rocket-like shape with wings. Now, that is something that we have seen in the drone sightings. And he said he heard a thunderclap, possibly the object exploding, and for 3 weeks there was a military search with intense secrecy in that area. Nothing found. Divers, Nothing. Now, the similarity between that and what the FBI said they saw is stark.
Yeah, definitely.
The other thing that sort of stuck out with me, when we've spoken about flaps, we've always said, because we've never lived it, we've said so, particularly the 1952 flap in Washington. During a 6-month period in 1952, 148 newspapers carried 16,000 items about these flying saucers.
Wow.
So that is not too dissimilar to what we're seeing now. I mean, there's probably at least 16,000 videos all over YouTube and stuff. But
Millions and millions of views on YouTube and TikTok, I would say.
Yeah. But they received 717 reports from the general public.
Right.
And we've just kind of forgotten about that. And that was over Washington, D.C.
Right.
Similarly sensitive. It was 1952. It wasn't in between elections. But even so, it's staggering that we've sort of forgotten the lessons of the past in a way.
Yeah.
So we've got two sort of more modern ones. And then we don't need to remind ourselves, well, I'm going to remind you anyway. The airship flap, which is probably my favourite one, which is 1896. And that one that was the first report was December the 2nd, 1896, by the San Francisco Examiner. During that period, the airship sightings went from the south, the Midwest, and the Northeast. Many sightings continue to find explanations through human ingenuity. Where have we heard this? Martian pilots were also occasionally accused and confused.
Both.
Yeah, and the Tennessee Reporter marked, maybe some enterprising Martian is determined to surprise our Earth and has selected Tennessee's centennial occasion to make his appearance in spite of all the difficulties of ethereal passage. God, they were wordy in those days. I keep saying that.
Wordy.
But look at that. They found an example, a reason why they're there. So it's not between elections. It's because it's their centennial. Of course, somebody went on to report that one of these airships had crashed into a windmill in Aurora. That never happened.
Okay.
It's been covered many times. I'm not going to go into it. But it turned itself into, there was a grave dug for an alien and stuff.
I remember that story.
This flap really expanded out. So we've got like these airship flaps happening in the 1800s. We've got the Washington sightings in 1952, and we've got the ghost rockets in 1946.
On the airship flap, it's funny you say that, because I had this little thought in my head that would be really funny of, we've talked about, and we've done episodes on the Sonora Aero Club.
Yes.
And, around that time. And so basically, for those who don't know,
civilization.
It's this group of people in Sonora, is it California?
Yes.
In California, who in the early days, what time frame are we talking? We're talking 18 something, are we?
1854.
Okay. So we've just done a bit of Googling. 1854 was when the Sonora Aero Club was supposed to be in action. I guess it's the best way of describing it. It was supposedly a group of eccentric inventors who created fantastical airships that they would fly around California. There was this club of rich aviation nuts who would design
who may or may not exist,
who created all these craft. I started to think, wouldn't it be lovely if this whole flap that we're in at the moment was the work of the New Jersey Drone Club?
It's very funny you should say that, because some people have said, isn't this the perfect way of a aerospace company trying to attract a contract from the military by saying, look,
here's what we can do.
Our drones are undefeatable.
Right.
And
it's a bit like those people who hack websites who then get employed to do security for them.
Incidentally, I know somebody that used to do that
as a job.
Yeah, and it was really good. He, I can't say who he is. He'd probably get into trouble, but he got hired by security services who wanted to test the integrity of key infrastructure places around the UK and sometimes in America, and they weren't told what it was because he was a Caltech person.
Yeah.
They brought him in and a group of other people, and they would sit in a bus with blacked out windows near the site, and this is in the 90s, and try and get in there. And once they found a way in, and they'd found out what the security problem was, they then used those same people to patch it up, and then went in and said, look, you've got these big holes. So it was the government basically trying to stop hacking of banks and things.
I remember I was working for, I won't go into detail, but I was working for a major broadcaster on a major TV show that was very web orientated as well as TV. And that got hacked, and there was much consternation about it. And then we found out it was the head of IT for the channel who'd hired hackers to see what the security was like.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I love that idea of the New Jersey Drone Club. And I think it's really interesting that what you just said about the idea that it could be some tech company saying to the American military, look what we can do, you need to hire us. That's amazing.
Yeah, the best, I guess, conspiracy theory I heard on that was that it was Elon Musk. Now,
Right.
and the reason for that is a solid one in that these drones are up there for a long amount of time, so presumably with advanced batteries.
Yeah.
And it's at a time when he is coming in to take money out of bits of the government.
Yeah.
What better way to come in with Trump in January and go, all those drones, that was me. You want some of those? They cost a tenth of what an aircraft costs.
Right.
Buy loads of those. I mean, I'm not saying I believe it. Everything I say, I have no idea about. It's just what I've heard. I think that's an interesting one.
But what's fascinating about all these things that we're talking about, and I keep saying I don't know because I don't, and anybody who says they do know is probably not lying. They may have, well, it's lying. They may have views, but they don't know. But it is perfect, isn't it, to illustrate how mass hysteria works?
Yes, we are seeing it in real time.
We need an answer, and there's this thing up there, and it looks weird. And there was even that. I don't know if he was a senator or a governor. He was something elected official who posted a video saying he'd seen them, and when they checked the video, it was like, no, they are constellations. They're stars.
Yeah.
You can clearly see they are not drones.
Yeah. But people are now. They are now using laser pointers and pointing at commercial aircraft, not realising they're commercial aircraft.
Right.
And causing a whole load of problems. So they're sitting on the ground trying to go, well, that's an illegal drone. I mean, I've seen YouTube videos of people shooting at these things in their back garden.
Really?
And again, that is a terrible idea because you don't know what it is. Yeah. If it is something that the military can't take down, I'm pretty sure you can't take it down with whatever you've got.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think the trouble with this, and this is what people must have felt in those other airship flaps, if you've seen something, you know what you've seen.
Yeah.
And for us to sit here on the other side of the Atlantic, or in the case of our local air bases 20 miles away, and go, it's probably just drone flyers, like Mick Cuckoo saying that, he might have a good point. But these things are being seen by people who are credible. And if those mayors are as annoyed as Brian was there, I'm so surprised that somebody isn't going, calm down, guys.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen. I mean, maybe it is just a...
But then does that work? Because that's reminding me of the Phoenix Lights incident where the mayor there, do you remember he did that press conference?
Yes.
And he had one of his people dressed up as an alien. That was him trying to diffuse the situation. It actually made it worse,
But have we heard any more about the truth of the Phoenix Lights? No, we have not.
No. Well, even he's kind of changed his view on it as well.
It certainly wasn't a group of, was it A110 warthogs?
Yeah, and there was flares, wasn't
on an
there?
exercise with flares. Yeah. Completely disproven.
Yeah.
And this feels to me like every other time we've had something, my point was going to be, it feels suspiciously close to the current technology of the time, the airships mirroring the airships that were to come very, very shortly afterwards.
Yeah, the drones, the rockets, and then the drones.
The rockets, which look like... So we've just had the V2 bombs scaring Londoners and half of Europe.
Yeah.
These things look like rockets, like missiles, like what was coming out of Germany. Suddenly they're landing in Sweden. There was a big thought there. I mean, I didn't just go into it there because we've spoken about these before, but people did think that people were testing missiles. They thought, oh gosh, the Second World War isn't over, which is why that they were looking for the obviously the debris.
Yeah.
Then people said, oh well, it's Sweden doing it to itself, which is exactly what people are saying about America now. Yeah. And those flaps over DC, oh well, DC, the capital, obviously the most important place on Earth, obviously not to aliens, but that's the interpretation of it. And again, people have come out with 1,000 explanations for what that is, but not one of them really, really fits.
What is different about this flap, though, for me, is it's more a conspiracy flap than a UFO flap.
Oh, it is?
You know, I mean, yes, there are some people who are saying, yes, it's alien technology, but it's more, you know, what have we had? We've had, it's Iran, which seems incredibly unlikely, with the mothership, which just seems really. You know, we've had Russia, we've had China, we've got America testing it themselves and showing off to everyone that they've got it. I hadn't heard the Elon Musk one, but that's interesting as well.
I think I can credit that one to Aaron Wright from Mysterious Universe.
So let's flip this the other way round. Let's assume it was aliens, or is alien, right?
Yeah.
Just for the sake of argument. It does make sense with the other flaps that we've talked about. Create your technology that's roughly in line with what people expect. Now, I guess the counter-argument is, well, why wouldn't you make it look exactly like the stuff of the times? But in this case, maybe that's what it is. You know, many people will look at those clips and go, well, they're drones. I mean, they may be incredibly advanced drones, but they're drones. And in a way, if you were an alien race that was trying to observe us or do things, it's a good way of doing it, because we've seen with this flap, people firstly leap to conspiracy theories about earthbound people or the American government rather than alien.
Yes, they do. And I mean, what would be better than sticking earthly like lights on these things so that they appear to be our own craft? I mean, again, we're not the only podcast to say this. I took this idea from some other people I was talking to, but they were being reminded of the Men in Black incidents where there is, say, a police car following somebody down the road, and then when they get a bit closer to it, the police car is actually hovering 6 inches off the ground. And instead of having blue and red flashing lights, it's covered in Christmas lights. That is an actual sighting by,
really?
Yes, by actually somebody high in the religious orders. And it's like they can't get it right. And we see that a lot. We've covered these reports like because we're in the middle of drones, I can't remember his name, but the man who was stopped on the grinning man who was stopped on the road. And like that seems to be an alien that can't get the human form exactly right, or it can, and it just likes playing around with us.
What that reminds me of is AI generated images,
right?
That just can't quite get the eyes right, or you know, we've all seen
six
them.
Fingers.
Yeah, that. Yeah. There's something. Yeah, interesting that.
So I'm going to say, so we are now, what are we? We're 9 days ahead of when this is going to be published. And I will come on to the Patreon if this is completely out of date. I don't think it will be, because this is more that historical focus about the whole thing. And I very much believe, and we'll see if I'm right in 9 days, this will taper and peter and taper until there is only 1 or 2 reports, and then this is going to be the exclusive fodder of YouTubers and podcasters for the next 6 months until it goes away. And everyone will go, oh, the drone flap, what? You mean the drones that were human? And we go, no, those things that people kept seeing every night that made people in government legitimately worry, and it'll just go away.
Yeah. You know what I think it is, Ben?
No, not Santa Claus, no.
Doug and Dave.
Oh, Doug and Dave.
Sorry, I said that to wind Ben up. He gets very upset when everyone says that Doug and Dave created all the crop circles
because they didn't.
And or it's the offspring of Doug and Dave have now moved on to drones and they live in New Jersey.
You're right, though. This has the same earmarks as in a different way.
Similar story in a way, actually.
Similar story, yes. Oh, we did all of those circles in Wiltshire. Sure. What about the ones in Missouri? What about the ones in Brisbane? You didn't do those. Oh, they're copycats. Are they copycats? Are they really? Because I am hearing that as well. Oh, they're copycat drones in the UK. Oh, right, yeah. So I saw somebody dangerously put a drone up over a US military site, so I thought I would do the same. Seemed like a laugh. Absolute nonsense. But
there are parallels, aren't there, with the height of crop circles? You know, the hysteria, the theories of what it is, the conspiracy theories, the alien theories, the it's a couple of guys with, treading the crops down.
Hedgehogs mating.
This is almost I wonder if we will look back at it as almost our 21st century version of crop circle phenomena.
I think we'll look back at it, and when we're old, you know those shows on Channel 5, which is Remember 1975?
Yeah.
It'll be like that, and we'll laugh, and people who don't take notice will laugh. But I don't think it's a laughing matter. I feel like if it's not aliens and it's not an enemy, then we're being tested. And I don't mean to sound tin hatty about that.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm a laboratory animal right now, in a way.
But like I said, compared to the other flaps, do you agree this feels less alien, more earthbound, or are you liking my idea that it's all a bit of a cover? That's a cover for it.
I think there's some alien in this. I do. I really do. Or, okay, I'm not going to say alien. I'm going to say I think there is there's some UAP phenomena in this. So some of those videos that we've seen are by no means the least. The thing that really did make me cause for thought on that, or pause for thought, I should say, was Daz, who gave me cause for thought, because he's predicting a sort of a US and Russian sort of incident.
So he's describing it as a tech war, is he?
Well, sort of, yeah. I think William Shatner owns that word.
Right.
But yes, he in a way. Well, to be fair to him, he's just describing what he sees. I don't think he's gone so far as a tech war, but he's seeing those two objects that one, he says, feels American, one feels Russian. And that is obviously different to this, but you could as an alien race be pretending to be Russian.
Do we know when he did those drawings?
November the 20th, yeah.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it was November the 20th, yes. So it was before this flap really kicked off.
Wow.
But I don't know. Look, I mean, we will see. I think I've always felt like we missed out on the golden age of some of these paranormal things that we talk about.
Yeah.
We've certainly missed out on, like, the Cottingley Fairies. I would have loved to have lived through the Cottingley Fairies.
Yeah.
Jeff the Mongoose, of course. But now we've got our own. And you always think, oh, you'd be able to get so much closer to it. And in fact, I feel more isolated from this than I do from other things, because obviously we're lacking in commentators with sort of a hindsight. But it's really difficult to find people who haven't got an agenda to talk about. Really, YouTube is split between aliens, it's the Third World War, it's just a flap, stop messing around, there's nothing to see here. And people are going, oh, no, look, there's some people who are saying they're human-piloted craft. They clearly are not human-piloted craft. Yeah. But the biggest thing for me is if we really don't know what it is, if we really, really, really don't know what it is, then how good is our military really? Yeah, yeah. I mean, you always feel safe-ish growing up thinking, well, you know, because we live in the part of the country where, you know, warplanes go over all the time. You see, in the height of the Cold War, we were surrounded by American bases. You would see American troops around all the time. And you think, they've got all the best stuff. This is the place to be. We're fine. And they can't find out where a drone is that's flying over their airbase. If that's the truth, I'm not saying that is true. If that is the truth, that is pretty worrying for me.
And that, again, that's the difference between that and the crop circle phenomenon. Because, you know, apart from if you went full on, it's aliens that are landing and invading our airspace, very little of it seemed like a threat to our military or our security. But this drone thing does feel different to that.
This drone thing is different to that because, like, even if they're not like a threat, that's still several £100 worth of hardware flying over people's heads. Yeah. They could fall out the sky, could fall through someone's house, fall through someone's car. That is not to be sniffed at. And I just have this sinking feel. I really, really did think, disclosure, are we getting close to this? Like, there was a whole load of chatter late in November about a computer model predicting an alien invasion in December. Yeah. And then this happened, and I'm pretty sure it was actually probably a PR thing from somewhere. I'm not quite sure where. Probably those Muller Light people. Yeah. No, it wasn't really. Or a movie. But then this started to happen, and I just felt like we will get to the bottom of this. I felt like it'll only be a couple of days. And I was really expecting that Roswell moment of, it was an air balloon. Yeah. And we'd be able to see through the facade and go, no, this time we know what it is. It's them. I don't think we will. I think this is going to go away. Like, if I was going to give you homework to listen to, I've mentioned Micah Hanks. I've mentioned him before. I think he's a good news source, because he's got written destinations, text destinations as well, the Micah Hanks program, and also Professor Simon, who talks about some of the science behind this. And I haven't mirrored any of what they've been talking about really here, because they don't really talk about the historical stuff. But I think those are good places to keep a open mind on what is going on, because I do think the news outlets, I mean, I'm as guilty as anyone. Fox 5 from the States, from the tri-state area, I was watching there. Do you know what their helicopter is called?
Go on.
Well, they're called Fox 5. What do you reckon it's called?
Foxy.
The Flying Fox. Oh, of course it is. I was watching the Flying Fox. And it was live on YouTube, flying around in the evening with a camera on the bottom, just looking for drones with no commentary or music or anything. And I was just transfixed. Right. I was there drinking my tea, just like, he's going to see a drone in a minute. So I'm as guilty as anyone with that.
And then on the ground, there's everybody pointing up at the helicopters going, oh my God, it's a drone!
That's the irony, isn't it? Yes, of course.
Brilliant. Well, that was a really good debate. And yeah, like you say, if anything major happens, we'll come back. We'll come back and cover it on Patreon in between this episode going out. But like you said, I think this our views as of today, just before Christmas, will probably still be valid in 11 days' time.
I think so. But also, if you're new to this and you've just got a device for Christmas and you were looking for a spooky podcast to listen to, this isn't our normal stuff. We normally tell paranormal stories with some science behind it. Yeah. I just felt I couldn't ignore this any longer because I agree. I've just been looking at this constantly, and I just go from We're about to be blown up. We're about to be invaded. Oh, it's just people flying drones.
People with drones.
People with drones. And I haven't got one. I've got a radio-controlled aircraft. I haven't got a drone. I might ask Father Christmas next year for one.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think I've got a drone. I've got a toy thing that you can fly around the house, but it's not very good outside. It just blows over. So nobody would mistake it for an alien invasion.
I bought my dad one for in the house, and I think it's made for YouTube, which is really good. You can you set it up.
Put your camera on it. You can
it
connect
follows
to
you
your
around.
phone. Yeah.
It follows him off the sofa while he goes and makes a cup of tea.
Although, whenever we've used it, it runs out of batteries in about 3 minutes.
Absolutely, and it doesn't.
Which is to your Elon Musk point.
Yes. I'm not. Let's not give him the air of publicity. But yes, you're right.
He's got his own way of doing that. Well, I've been saving this right until the end of this episode. Probably time for us to stop droning on.
Oh, you're quite right. Well, as we fade away into the new year and start 2025 afresh, thank you for all being with us.
Yes, thank you.
And there are some people who've really helped us this year. You know who you are. I'm not going to go through a list, but stick with us through next year. Well, not stick through, that makes it sound bad. But we've got loads.
Endure us
for another year. And if I could take one thing away from this podcast is Fox 5, you need to change the name of your helicopter to Foxy.
The Flying Foxy. Great. Okay. Well, look, if you're listening to this before New Year, have a great New Year. If you're listening to it afterwards, I hope the hangover's not too bad.
And if you're listening to it from the future when we've been taken over by our new alien overlords, then I, for one, salute them.
Yes, we love you.
We love you.
See you later.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Are you the quantum mechanics?